SOS Wrestling Network, back at Wrestling Network, Wrestle Talk, all the above. Back at y'all once again, man. And this is a special time of year. We get WrestleMania, we get Hall of Fame inductions, we get all that stuff. So without any further ado, we do have a special inductee in this Hall of Fame this year. But before we even get to that, we got our own Hall of Fame member here. Of course, not myself. I am in a Hall of Fame, but we got the good brother across the pond, man, my main man right here. If we were to call SOS Wrestling Network similar to a stable, we would kind of be like the United Empire. LK, man, how the hell are you?
It's been a while. The last time we had a conversation, Vince McMahon was in charge. There was no noises in a crowd. But by golly gosh, here we are. We survived it all, and we're back up and running.
Bro, it's like, the way I look at it is, I'm like, hey, there are only a couple things that survived the nuclear holocaust, and cockroaches is one of them. I'm not trying to say we're cockroaches, but hey, we might have those survival instincts. That's not bad to have, because we're going to still be around, damn it. When New Japan was in its lull, as far as I know, we were the only people covering it this, whatever, this show after show after show. I'm not saying everybody wasn't doing that, but, New Japan got into a little bit of blow. And I think that's kind of a good segue for what we got tonight.
It took years off my life. It took years off my life. Those tag league shows. Oh, those tag league shows. Oh, they were some of the worst stuff I've ever watched in my life. Oh, they took years off my life. But no, I'm looking forward to jumping back into this and having some good fun like we used to. I'll be a bit rusty, so I do apologise. You've got to give me a week or two to get the rust off my motorcycle, and then I'll be up and running as normal.
LK is on this Bret Hart 96 mode right now. He's been going up to WrestleMania for a little bit. He did a couple shows on the European tour, but he's about to get full back in the swing of things, man. So I think a great topic for us to talk about tonight, LK, because you actually brought this to my attention. I was not even aware of this till you told me this. So shout out to you, my good brother. Great Muta is actually being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame this year. So it's warranted. I think this is kind of maybe a two-part question for you before we get into anything as far as his accomplishments and all that. One, of course, we all believe Muta, whatever you want to call him, is very warranted to be in their Hall of Fame. I think that's without a doubt. Two, I guess my main question for you, okay, is how do you feel, because I've seen this maybe going around, how do you feel Muta being inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame without necessarily setting foot in the WWE? What are your thoughts about that?
That's the interesting one, isn't it? That's the interesting one. That's like saying in 10 years' time, John Cena going to be inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame. It's a really interesting one. But they technically own WCW, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's
so
correct.
Do you see it as, he kind of wrestled under their umbrella? His archives are on the network or Peacock, or the fuck you guys have in America. So it's kind of one of those interesting ones. And if, that's the case, is they're going to start, inducting, wrestlers who have never been in WWE. It's an interesting one. But they did it with Liger, if I'm correct. Is Liger in the Hall of Fame?
I believe Liger is in the Hall of Fame. I know another person that they did it with that I actually am incorrect. He did step foot in the WWE a couple times. The person I was about to talk about, which is Tatsumi Fujinami. But Liger did wrestle a match in NXT against Tyler Breeze. But I mean, it's kind of like, oh, he wrestled one match, but let's get ourselves fooling. This is Grant Jushin Thunder Liger, and people know who he is. So kind of like, yeah, he wrestled one match, but people know who he is. So I get that,
And who on earth's going to induct the man? Like, I mean, your initial reaction would be, Muta's in a WWE Hall of Fame. You're going to go Sting, right?
Yep.
But that fucker's over in AEW, so.
I mean, I get they did. AEW and WWE did have sort of a working agreement with. They let was it Jericho come on the Austin podcast? A couple years back? They did kind of have that happen. I could see.
Yeah, but then they didn't allow Billy Gunn, did they, to do the Raw 30th?
That's very true. That is very. Oh, let me see. I got a person. I don't know. He's really not as well versed in not Terry. Well, I just gave it away. He's not well versed in Muta's career as far as Japanese, career goes. But when he was in WCW and NWA, whatever, he was very integral with Terry Funk. So you could get Terry Funk to do it. You could also get Ric Flair to do it because they've had a lot of interactions. I don't know what.
That's who it will be. They will be Ric Flair. You could bet your bottom. If I was a better man, I'd put the full house on. That'll be Flair. It'll be Flair. It'll be Flair or Foley.
And also too, LK, another people was just out, insinuating circumstances. But I guess this is kind of what I mostly remember from Muta being over in the United States. I do remember his early stuff in NWA, but a lot of people are going to remember his stuff from being in the NWO as well. So you could, if you wanted to, you could see what Kevin Nash is up to, because Kevin Nash and Muta do have a history, and they were in the NWO together. You could, if you want, I know Hogan is almost like a forbidden word right now, but it's kind of like you could do that as well.
No way. No. Do you think Hogan's a forbidden word now? I thought he. Well, I wouldn't say he cleared his name, but he's been on Raw and stuff, hasn't he?
That's true. I think it's just you never can tell with Hogan. It's always something. This is like, oh, he's back, he's not back. It's always something with him. So I didn't know if he's back on good standings with WWE. But you can use Hogan. You can use a couple people, because I think a lot of those guys, as far as his American excursion, were very integral. But unfortunately, like you said, the guy who is most integral in his American excursion, that being Sting, is over at AEW. You can't really use him to that facet. I don't know. I think you kind of give it, if it were me, I would kind of give it a medley. I give it a couple, I get Terry Funk, I get Ric Flair, I get some, I just let it be like, okay, so this is what this guy's done over his career. So just seeing, letting these people know that what this guy's done over his career if they're not familiar. I will maybe get all of them. If I had to pick one though, I got to pick one, I'm picking Ric Flair.
Yeah, I think they'll go with Flair as well. It's so much easier rather than going through the hassle of getting Sting to come. Makes so much more logical sense if they're just like, oh, Ric Flair, he's pretty much under a Legends contract, guaranteed.
Also, too, okay,
H will give him a payday.
I just thought about something. Somebody is inducting him. We all know in the pro wrestling world, I don't know if you've seen the match, but we all know Keiji Muto had his last match a couple weeks ago with my favorite pro wrestler. It's never going to change. Tetsuya Naito. Tetsuya Naito ended Muto's career. I don't mean to say like that, but he was his last match in his career. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I don't know if you heard, but Naito was not his first choice for his final match. Do you know who his first choice was?
No.
You would never guess, so I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, man. His first choice was The Rock.
Could you imagine that? Just Dwayne Johnson putting up outside the Tokyo Dome or the Budokan.
That would have been massive, though. That would have been pretty. I'd be like, oh shit, The Rock's wrestling Muto?
Sorry, Vince. Sorry, Vince. Can't do Mania this year. I'm prepping for the Muta at the Budokan.
Yeah, I can't really do that. But I know they had some meetings when The Rock, I think it was a couple years ago, he did a movie. It was called Hercules or whatever. Muto had done some promotion with The Rock over in Japan. So, I mean, that's as far as I know. I don't know what the relationship goes as far as that, but that would have been a very interesting final opponent if it was not Tetsuya Naito. I'd have thought that'd have been very, very interesting. No, man, I just think this Muto being here in the WWE Hall of Fame, it's warranted, because I'm kind of the person, LK. This is how I think about it. If, say, all right, this whatever sport, it doesn't matter. Basketball, what people think when they think basketball. They think the NBA. When they think, pro football, American football, they think the NFL. When they think baseball, MLB, hockey, and NHL, so on and so forth. UFC, MMA, UFC. And for lack of a better term, whether people like it or not, shit, we could be in the people that like it or we don't like it. When people hear the term pro wrestling, they think, if they're not fans, they think either WWE or they think WWF, whatever it was called. So for that, that right there, their Hall of Fame is, to me, worth more than any other company's Hall of Fame that would have one, because they're the promotion that everybody that's the most world renowned. So them inducting Muta, whichever persona they induct them in as, I think it's warranted, because like you said, they did absorb WCW. So, and then in that token, this is like the NFL absorbing another football league, and that player being acknowledged for their, accolades and accomplishments. So I have no problem with it. It's just essentially just that. It's like if somebody in UFC, if UFC picked up somebody and they only fought in Pride fighting, they giving them a Hall of Fame because they only fought in Pride fighting, didn't fight in UFC, but they're still a legend. They just never fought in UFC.
Yeah, that's fair. That makes a lot of sense. It'll just be interesting to see who inducts him. And I mean, he's definitely warranted a Hall of Fame. He should be in every fucking Hall of Fame. But, I mean, it's good for him in the end of the day. He's going to get a nice little payday. Probably get some merch out of it. He'll have a good little payday for him, bless him.
I don't mean to put you on a spot right here, but I got a harder question for you, because with Muto being inducted and his career wrapping up, I think this is time to ask this question. It's kind of, I think it's hard to compare, like when somebody's like, oh, who's the greatest wrestler of all time? Me personally, I think you kind of have to separate it. You have to be like, well, these are my greatest Western wrestlers of all time, and these are my greatest like Japanese wrestlers. Because it's kind of hard because some people might not know certain people and so on and so forth. So I kind of have to like separate it, if that makes sense. I'm like, okay, so my American guys, these are the guys I have on the tops. Japanese guys, these are the guys I have on the tops. Where would you rank Muto as far as a on the Japanese, I guess, greatest wrestler of all time?
Oh, you got to be top three at least.
Okay.
Back, even when I was younger, I at least knew of, the Great Muta from, his stuff with Sting, in WCW in the early 90s. But it's kind of it. Lots of people got into New Japan in Wrestle Kingdom 9 to kind of 11, roughly around about that time. That's when the majority of people got invested in New Japan, got New Japan World, and Muta was never on it. So to a casual kind of, because you could be a casual fan of wrestling and actually enjoy New Japan, enjoy AEW, enjoy WWE. You could just be a casual viewer and consumer of, pro wrestling on television, and you might not know who he is. And that's not anything to do with his own fault, but he was in, Noah, who did Wrestle One. But the stuff he's done, with, it's not a place he hasn't been. Besides WWE, realistically, because he's done what? He's done all the New Japan, he's done All Japan, he's done Noah, Wrestle One, he's done TNA.
Ring of Honor. He's been in Ring of Honor before.
Ring of Honor. Yeah, there's not really a place besides WWE and AEW which the guy hadn't done. So, and the looking at the arena for his retirement match was, I've never seen it like that. When was the last time? I think the last time I saw it kind of that packed probably would have been the time Kenny Omega faced Chris Jericho.
That's fair. That's 100% fair. Yeah, man. He, like you said, he's got to be top 3, if not top 5, greatest Japanese wrestlers of all time. If you had to put me on the spot right now, I had to say Muto, Tanahashi, Mitsuharu Misawa, Kenta Kobashi, and probably Okada. This is me going off the top of my head right now.
You have to chuck Okada in there.
Those are probably the top 5 right now. And I mean, there are other wrestlers who are on their way. There are other wrestlers who will be amongst the greats once it's said and done. But Muto's, his name's etched in stone as one of the greatest Japanese, if not one of the greatest pro wrestlers. That's because that's when I want to go over to his Western influence. Muto is probably one of the most imitated wrestlers probably of all time. Like, if we think about it, all the moves that he's innovated, not saying he's created them. He didn't create the moonsault, but he popularized the moonsault. Not a lot of people were doing the moonsault until Muto started doing it. Poison Mist, he didn't popularize, he didn't create it, but he's pretty much the guy. When you think Poison Mist, you think Great Muta. Not a lot of people are thinking Great Kabuki. Like, I'm just being real. But not a lot of people.
It's the elbow drop, isn't it? Like, I remember watching Austin Aries when I was younger, doing that Muta-esque elbow. Didn't The Rock do the people's elbow based on Muta?
Flashing elbow drop, yep, absolutely. And then another thing too, the whole mid-2000 indies owes Great Muta / Kaiji Muto their career, because there wasn't no shining wizard. What the hell would they be doing?
Yeah, it's true. This is very true.
Like, what the hell would they be doing, man? But ultimately, we ain't got to go on too long about Kaiji Muto's career. He's one of the greatest of all time. He's welcome in any Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, if you ask me, whether he stepped foot in their ring or not. And actually, I probably told you this, LK, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it again on air. I met Kaiji Muto very, casually in a hotel lobby. Just him sitting down chilling. So this is like, all right.
And he probably looked at you, and in his head was like, "Fuck off."
I would have been too. I was like, what do you want, bro? I just said, hey, real quick, shook his hand and just walked off. I didn't even ask for a picture. I was like, he looked like he's waiting for an Uber or something. So, like, nah, go about your business, man. I ain't about to be all, in your stuff like that. But nah, Great Muta, Kaiji Muto, one of the greatest of all time, former IWG, one of the 5 wrestlers to win the Japanese Triple Crown. I know All Japan has a Triple Crown, but the All Japan Triple Crown, the GHC Heavyweight, and the IWGP Heavyweight, which, okay, I guess since the last time we talked, it seemed like that's almost as easy as getting a cup of coffee nowadays. But that's for a whole nother topic right now. But no, man, you got to give Kaiji Muto his flowers while he's still here. I'm definitely grateful that we're getting to see him and getting him his praise while he's still, still here on this earth, because sometimes a lot of wrestlers don't get to have that happen. And yeah, I'm just interested to see ultimately, okay, to see who inducts him. I think that's the real key right there.
Absolutely, it'll be interesting to see, and we'll probably give a little recap, a mini little 10-20 minute recap of the Hall of Fame after that Bad Boys aired and published, giving our thoughts on the induction. So make sure you hit the subscribe button to know when that bad boy drops.
Absolutely, man. So I think we've said enough about our friend Kaiji Muto. He's a great guy. It's not like we want to get rid of him or anything, but we got other stuff to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we could talk about Kaiji Muto to the moon, to the cows come home, but he probably, like you said, like LK said, he probably would tell us to fuck off still. So it's just like, man, fuck, I don't. He's like, I don't care about that shit. Like, whatever. But yeah, man, Kaiji Muto for getting into the Hall of Fame, I think that's a great shout, like my brother LK just said. So I'll be looking at the show. I'm interested to see who else is inducted as well. I haven't heard any news about anybody else. I'm sure it's out there. So
by the way, that was report. I really should have said this at the beginning. Really should have said this at the beginning. This was reported by PWInsider, not E themselves.
Okay, so allegedly, he's allegedly.
So we could have just spent 15 minutes talking about something that's never happened.
Hey, he's still a legend. Hey, he's still in. You know, at some point they probably will. So this still will hold true. You know,
and if it's not true, this video will just be exposing PWInsider, and either way, it's a result.
Exactly. I'm all for exposing bogus wrestling media anyway. So hey, that is what that is. But no, we'll be back at y'all here very shortly. We're gonna talk about a lot of stuff. We got a soup type situation. So be on the lookout for that. But we're signing off for the Great Muta. Please be sure you like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell a friend and tell a friend, because that price of subscription is $3.99. Doesn't cost you anything. All you gotta do is hit the button and you're good. So holla at you, Kaiji Muto, man. Make sure you send us our checks in the mail, please. Thank you. And we'll talk to you later. Kaiji, peace.